Hello and welcome to another edition of Sunspots. I'm your host, Evan Cooke, joined after a week hiatus by the head coach, once again, Ben Macauley here. Coach coming off a big win at the Apple Bowl on Saturday night, 71-7 over the Valley Huskers. Let's start there. Sometimes in those blowout games, kind of tougher to talk about them just because it was such a wide margin of victory, but what did you notice from that win?
Well, there were a lot of positives, and it wasn't certainly our intention to run up the score as high as we could. Our intention was really come out strong and be able to get some other guys some playing time who don't normally get it. It's really important that we develop our young players in the system. The only way to get game experience is by playing in the games, so we were able to do that as early as the second quarter and let those guys kind of ride the rest of the game out.
It's an interesting thing when you're in that situation trying to figure out, okay, when do I take guys out? When do I get some subs in? Because, like you mentioned, sort of started to happen around that second quarter. There were still some guys starting that were still in the late part of the third quarter. How did you as a coaching staff kind of get around that?
Well, we play the guys that we have available. In some cases we're only one or two guys deep at each position. So in some cases we have no choice but to play the starter for most of the game. In other cases we're 3 or 4 deep. So we did some rotating guys around to make sure that we were getting some exposure for some of them. But it's always tough because you want to go out there to play to win. You can't tell your guys to go out there and not play their absolute hardest and best because, that's when injuries happen and you form bad habits. So, whether they're first string or fourth string, their goal was to go out there and dominate. So, I think we did a pretty good job of that.
You talked pregame as well about obviously being in a situation where you don't want to run the score up per se, but you also don't want to take plays off or develop those bad habits. Were you satisfied with how your players responded in that sense?
Yeah, absolutely, and I think we had good energy through all 4 quarters. Sometimes it's hard to manufacture that energy when it's not really a competitive or tight game. But I've been on the other side of that score in the past, and it's not a lot of fun. And you try and you have as much respect for your opponent as possible, but still at the same time we have a job to do, and we don't really worry too much about our opponent, as we say most weeks. We're just looking at ourselves and how do we improve. So. We still made some mental errors. We just happened to get the job done on the scoreboard and make those mental errors, but we've cleaned it up a little bit.
Offensive side of things, what did you see there? It was the third week that we've seen Nick Wenman start. Did you see progression on his end in terms of getting comfortable with the offense?
Yeah, he's done some things better. He still early in the game was missing some open receivers. And a couple of play call errors, but in general he's just taken another step forward. His stat sheet obviously is going to reflect a huge jump forward, but I think part of that is the competition and the receivers playing really well and finishing in the end zone. So, but Nick's just come a long way since that first quarter he played. He's really calmed down, and I think the team is starting to buy into him as a leader.
As far as running back goes, too, you had 4 guys get carries and 4 guys who looked pretty comfortable in that game. Are you pleased with where you are at that position right now?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got two guys who shared the workload for the majority of the first half, and Kelton Curry and Robbie Rodriguez. Both of those guys are returning players, and we expect that out of them. We expect that Robbie and Kelton are going to be fighting all the way through, and we don't even have Brendan Hansen or Tanner Sudo healthy yet. So, we've really got 4 guys in the top mix there. And then we had Zach Keiss and Joseph Okunlola share time in the second half, and really I think those guys showed, Zach's a veteran player who contributes a lot in special teams as well, but Joseph is a dynamite young player. He's only 18 years old, and anyone who saw him play has got to think that the future's pretty bright for the backfield of the Sun offense.
Let's switch to defensively, because the big story here was a rookie defensive back in Aldrich Barrios who comes away with 4 interceptions. Pretty special when you can watch that type of performance on the defensive end, tying a team record in the process.
Yeah, it was excellent ball skills on his part. Not just to be the recipient of a bad throw or an errant pass or a tipped ball, but to be in a position to where you can actually make the play, because lots of opportunities come like that. Not everyone can capitalize. So for him to make them pay 4 times and then also recover a fumble, single-handedly beat our goal for our plus-minus ratio and turnovers, and went a long way towards us having a plus 10 on defense, which, anytime you do that, we had a big win, but anytime you can do that, you're going to come away with a win, not only on the scoreboard, but just mentally a domination kind of thing. Anytime that the other teams on the field are worried about giving you the ball back, and that's what we did.
And we talked about it during the broadcast, a theme there being that it's tough for the other team when their defense is on the field, really for what feels like most of the game. On the flip side of that, it means your defense isn't on the field for a lot of the game. Were you happy with the way that they were able to come together, even maybe not getting out there as consistently as they usually do, in the way that they came around, like you say, winning those turnover battles in a big way?
Yeah, and I think we were, like I said earlier, we were able to get a lot of different guys' repetitions. We were able to try some guys out at different positions as well. Everybody who was on the sideline got a chance to play, and that's important. But we didn't allow them to have small successes. They had a couple of positive passing plays, but for the most part, we made our presence felt in the front 4. We did a great job in coverage. We had one mental error that resulted in a big touchdown for them against some of our depth players. But that's stuff we can learn from, and that's really what it's all about. And we can go back and look at the film and just improve on some of those minor mistakes we made.
Last question, just about the upcoming matchup this week in Nanaimo, taking on the VI Raiders, a team that has looked pretty good early on in this season. They put up 50 points on Kamloops this past weekend. What are you looking at for that matchup?
Well, they're a well-coached team. Coach Doug Hawking's got his guys playing with a bit of an edge, which is exactly what they want to do. They kind of ride that line between overly aggressive and cocky. So that's a great way to play the game, and they live up to that. They do well on special teams. They've got some dynamite players in the skill positions, so they can make you pay if you're not sound on assignment. And on top of that, Caledonian Park is a tough place to play. You're kind of sunken in, and it's not the greatest field in the world. It kind of has a mystique about it, kind of treed in, and it could be really hot, humid temperatures. So it's tough to play right off the bat, but it's great for us. We need a good challenge. Like them, we get them twice in a row. So we're going to have to put our best performance forward and really try and steal a win there in Nanaimo before they come back this way. But they're so well coached that we're going to have to be able to adjust at halftime. We're going to have to be able to take what the defense has given us and move the ball down the field methodically.
Welcome back here to Sunspots. Evan Cooke alongside linebacker for the Okanagan Sun, Cody Thompson. Cody, appreciate you coming in to talk today. The big story, of course, is the win over the weekend against the Valley Huskers. You guys putting up 71 points in that game in the win. When you're in games like that where it's so lopsided, what's that like as a player to kind of try and keep that motivation level up throughout a whole 60 minutes?
Well, yeah, it's definitely a little difficult playing a team that when we're throwing up 71 points, but the whole week we were talking about playing at our level and always playing at our level and not matching up to their level, and every week we're trying to elevate and just trying to always build off of that. So
yeah, were you satisfied with the way you guys played on defense in terms of that preparation that you had leading up to the game?
Yeah, our defense definitely did a fairly good job. We had a lot of turnovers and a lot of guys rallying to the ball and definitely executing their plays. We allowed the one touchdown, but still we're trying to build off of that and then get better as a team. So, as a group on defense, how have you seen this group evolve and get better over the last few weeks since the start of the season? Well, our defense is definitely very strong this year, and we're just it's a lot of new guys, and we're all getting to know each other. So now that we're starting to play together, we're getting to know each other better, and we're just starting to execute a lot better together, and it's definitely going to show when we're only allowing less than 10 points a game as a defense, and that's definitely our goal, is to minimize team scoring on us and allowing our defense to perform at the top level that we can.
Yeah, I mean, less than 10 points this week, but in weeks past, the totals against you guys have been pretty low there as well. Does that make it easier, I guess, to stay motivated and work on some of those finer details in practice when, as a whole, you can be pretty satisfied with what you're doing collectively?
Yeah, we definitely, like when we played Langley, we allowed them back into the game as a defense, so we definitely had to peak off of that, and we had to figure out how to execute a lot better and learn how to stay in the game as a collective and keep playing as a defense and pick each other up and not take each other down when we allow some points in. We have to keep picking each other up as a group and make sure that we stay as a team.
And you talked about getting to know this group of players on and off the field. How's that kind of gone this year, maybe even compared to years that you've played in the past? How does this team compare to that?
It's definitely a lot stronger, and our family aspect is definitely a big thing for us. And on and off the field, it's a huge thing. Like, we always have guys communicating and hanging out together, whether that be on and off the field. And we're always pushing the family aspect with everybody. So it's definitely a big thing that can bind us together and bond us a lot better. So
one of the things I've wanted to get a player's perspective on too is the coaching staff this year has a lot more bodies and there's a lot more faces coaching wise this year compared to some of the years in the past. Does that make a difference, do you think, on the playing side? Do you feel like you're getting good coaching in the way of not having the same voice talk to you all the time and getting kind of different perspectives there?
yeah, you definitely have more eyes on you and more perspectives, and you have guys that played at different levels and definitely different generations, so you have different key elements of certain coaches which they know how to do things a lot better. So when it comes to that, it's definitely a good thing to have because you have a lot of eyes on you, so it minimizes the mistakes that you can have, and all the coaching that they can put together as a collective is definitely very beneficial to us.
And as you prepare for this coming weekend on the road in Nanaimo, what are you looking at in terms of what the Raiders have to bring? They've had, I would say, a fairly successful start to their season. They've had kind of similar games to the games that you guys have had. They had a close game against West Shore. They lost that one where you guys won, but some similar types of games against the same types of opponents. What do you look at in terms of a matchup with them coming up this weekend?
I definitely think that the Raiders have a very strong team as well, and we're definitely going to have to match up. They're going to match up well with us, but I think if our defense can really push and keep their offense down, then it'll allow our offense that much more chance to succeed. And I believe that we can come out on top because we have had a lot of close games in the similarities of the teams that we have played, but I do believe that we're getting better every week and we're advancing, so I think that our team can definitely come out on top against them.
And a team that you guys are going to play really 2 times in a row. There's a bye week splitting the games up, but is that kind of fun a little bit, that part of the schedule where you normally don't get to play teams back to back, but you're going to get a crack at them 2 times in a row this time?
Yeah, it'll definitely be fun. Like, we'll have a lot more to prepare against when we know the team exactly that we're playing right after the bye, because it'll definitely be fresh in our memories. So yeah, it'll be fun to have them come to our house right after we play them. Hopefully we beat them then, but then we'll have to prepare and get better and execute for the second time that we play them so that we can be stronger even when we play them the second time.
Well, the Sun and the Raiders kick off Saturday afternoon in Nanaimo. Going to be a 2 p.m. kickoff with a 1:30 pregame show happening on AM 1150. Thanks for watching Sunspots this week. We'll see you next time.